the world was just caving in and I just had omnipresent depression and I wanted to commit suicide all the time. My objective is not work-life balance. My objective is to change the course of intelligence in this part of the galaxy. Our goal with Web3 is to build Don't Die into the world's next major ideology.
Hello, what's up, everyone? It's Farokh of Rug Radio, and we're back here today, this time with the legend himself, Bryan Johnson. Bryan, how are you doing today?
Great, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a pleasure and honor to have you. You're running pretty hot right now. You kind of like you're the guy right now. You're the health person. How's that feel?
I never would have expected this. I mean, when I started this, it was just a really interesting question. Are we the first generation that won't die? But it was never in my plans that I'd be a content creator and I'd be on social media trolling. Like just never, it was never my jam. It was never something I did. I think when I started, I have like 5,000 followers on IG. So yeah, it's been pretty surprising.
You got a lot now. I mean, I follow you from Twitter because crypto, all this stuff, CT happens on X. So you have what, 500,000 followers almost. So that's pretty impressive. When did you start this like creator journey?
So put this in historical context. Like in 1519, Magellan was like, hey, what if I circumnavigated the globe? And he got funding, and then he got a few ships, and then they figured out like what kind of supplies do you need on the ship to do this thing. And so I was trying to do something similar where if you say like, if you want to be the first person to not die in human history, what kind of voyage do you set up? Like what are your ships? What are your tools? Yeah. So I started just like mapping this thing out. And so I mapped out a team where we had 30 doctors on the team, and they were various specialists in like the heart, the brain. And then we combed through all the scientific literature, trying to assess like, what do we know about health and wellness? And what do we think we can map to my body? So we're trying to just get state of play. And then we put everything on a website. So just like openly shared our entire process. And then it went viral. I didn't expect that. And then people were like, tell me more. And so being on social media just became part of the game of how to communicate what we were doing. So I had to become friends with the camera and like develop, just have like a new relationship. Whereas when I was first on camera, it intimidated me and I would see something cold, where now I'm potentially more comfortable with the camera than I am a human.
Wow, I love that. This is cool. I mean, it's something you develop, right? I'm like 1,200 episodes deep of my my morning show. I've been doing social media stuff for 15 years now. So I was like 15 years old. Some would argue that social media ages you. Is your social media creator journey messing with your reverse aging, process, Bryan? Because social media, I'm telling you, it's some days really ages me.
Yeah. What bothers you
in social media?
Yeah.
Sometimes I find it's just all too much to keep up with and to do. It's this overload of information. My brain fries, so I black out.
Yeah, I understand that. I think that's very common. I think a lot of people feel enslaved by social media because if you're not on it, you're not part of the tribe. And if you are on it, then you're exposed to like a lot of emotional negativity. Like, people are really harsh and mean. There's a lot of relative comparisons. There's a lot of trigger points that make you feel worse about yourself. Like we know this where young teen girls like have a very hard time in that relative comparative space. But that's true for everybody, right? People see themselves through relative comparative lenses. And so I think the majority of people I know have an extremely complicated emotional relationship with social media. They feel trapped, that they have to do it and they have to play the game, but they have to appear as if they're happy playing the game, and they can't show that actually inside they're suffering.
Yeah, my secret to never burning out from being, because I've been doing this, I'm 15 years old, I'm 30 now. But my secret to never burning out of the social stuff is never going out of character. I'm me when I open my phone and when I close it, And so I think as a creator, this is what's helped me never really burn out or never become irrelevant either, because I'm just me. And so people like me will catch on to me. So that's just really cool. Anyways, I didn't plan on talking to you about the social media journey, though. I thought that was really cool, given that you started saying that you were getting, used to the whole creator stuff. Let me tell you, you look great on Don't Die. On Netflix, I have the TV downstairs. You look great. That's really something that got me really hooked onto your stuff. My fiance, I was telling, your team member before this in the studio, I was saying my fiance has been, into health and wellness forever. And, obviously find out about you, obviously, like when you get into that route, you find out about Bryan Johnson. And at first, I was a skeptic, right? And I'm sure you've heard that before. And I was like, well, what is this guy doing? Right? Like, oh, what is he doing? Then I looked into him, like, damn, like you're a big founder. You're an extremely successful human being. I'm an entrepreneur too, so I look up to you in that sense. And then I watched Don't Die on Netflix, and I was like, damn, this guy's cool. And
Mm,
why would you hate on someone using his own money and his own body for the sake of science to try and prove a point? And so that really removed all of that
mm.
skepticism from my mind with regards to what you're doing, and that made me really want to just interview you for the sake of the space. I have a segment ready for you on like crypto and all this stuff that I want to get to, but first I really want to talk to you more about this whole like not dying concept. And I'm gonna start off really just by a question I really wanted to ask you is, like I said, you're a very successful entrepreneur. You're a very successful man. If you weren't wealthy and successful, do you think you would have cared about living forever?
What I'm really trying to ask is, in any given time and place, a person is given the opportunity to try to, with their most sober abilities, assess what is really going on, right? And so if you go back, Buddha gave this a swing, right? Like Buddha was like, hey, life is suffering. You can go through this ego death process. There's planes of existence. There's reincarnation. There's an eightfold path. Like he tried to explain reality with the tools he had at his disposal. And then, Muhammad came by and he's like, we should submit to God, right? Like there's like, and here's why. And Jesus said, I am the Son of God. And if you obey these commandments, you get an afterlife. And then Adam Smith said with, capitalism, there's this invisible hand. And when you behave a certain way in a selfish desire, you actually benefit the entire ecosystem. And there's capitalism, and this is how the markets work. And then Karl Marx said, actually, it's class warfare.
Yeah.
And America said, it's we the people. So like we have these civic actions. So in all those time points, those individuals and those groups are trying to say, like, in this moment, in this time and place, how do we understand existence and what do we try to do? So right now, like we're kind of like America is a land of capitalistic endeavors where
Hmm.
you go after money because that's the prize. Whoever has the most money is the biggest prize. And I'm arguing that the most money is not the prize anymore. It's not dying. That is the prize of existence. And
I
people
see.
don't see it. But I'm trying to say on a multi hundred or 100,000 year time scale, right now it's the first time you could actually say like that is the prize.
I love that. So the price, so your end goal is not dying versus making as much money as possible.
Exactly. If you just try to read like, what is happening in society, so we say
Mhm.
that the most consequential thing happening is we're developing a system of intelligence that is superior to us in all ways, and it's happening at speeds which we can't even fathom.
Right.
And so, if we're really giving birth to something more capable than we are, what does it mean to be human? What systems do we have? Like, what goals do we have? Like, why do we exist? And I'm saying that we are graduating from a maniacal obsession with making money to that we simply care about existing. That our
Mhm.
existence is so precious. And
That's
so this
true.
is why I think it breaks most people's brains because all they've ever understood is this maniacal pursuit of wealth and
Yeah.
status and power. When like I don't think those things are going to matter much for very much longer.
So how does someone that doesn't have the wealth that you have actually manage not to die? Like if it's
Yeah.
like the average Joe, right? Like the average person that, you know, can't do afford all the stuff that you do, but wants to follow down your path. Like how does someone like that start?
Yeah. So it's the really important transition is if a person right now, if you're listening, if you think through your behaviors in the past 7 days, and let's just keep a tally of the number of things that you've chosen to do that you would consider to be in the category of like living a full life or pursuing happiness or like whatever. It would probably include missing bedtime, drinking with a friend, smoking marijuana, right, eating junk food, eating fried food. Like if you just over the past week, there's probably like 15 things that fall into that kind of category,
Yeah.
and that's just part of your normal life. That's what you do. Now, every single one of those things, in some form or fashion, is making you die faster.
Yeah.
It's actually increasing the speed at which you acquire disease. And so it's this first level of acknowledgement that we do things that accelerate death and we color it as living life. So we try to put a virtue on it to say that is the good life. And then when you have someone like me that says, doing things that cause death is dumb,
Yeah.
People are like, bro, you're cracked out.
They're like, "Oh, you're not living life, but you have
Exactly.
different concept." So it's way deeper than most. I mean, I would think it's like we were raised, especially as a young man in the Western hemisphere, in the Western world, it's like you're raised, you have to grow up, make money, be cool, live life, you know, get married, all this, like all these things, but and
Yeah.
like go out, go drink, go party, but you're saying no, like you can do all of this and have a fulfilling life, but you can also try not to die in the process.
I'm saying that how a person understands the world right now,
Mm.
that living your best life includes getting drunk
Yeah.
and missing your bedtime is not actually living life.
Right.
It's just a representation of when death is inevitable. This is what humans do when they YOLO. And I'm saying that if death is not inevitable, we're now getting into this phase of a species where we can begin imagining living like 200, 300, 400, 500 year lifespans, then you no longer want to do things that cause you to die, right? The cultures is going to shift. And so the first thing is to realize you are in a cult of death, right?
Right.
Your
I see
cult
what you
of
mean.
death, yeah, your cult of death is telling you to do things that cause you to die, and that's cool.
Yeah, that's that. Listen, I'm not going to argue that spirits and different things that you do that, definitely don't help on that front. This is why I've been actually significantly cutting everywhere. I'm trying not
Good,
to die,
good,
and
good, good.
or live longer at least. So, I got like my Oura going, work out 5 days
Yeah,
a
good.
week, we eat
Yeah,
very healthy at home, we eat at home, try to drink less, etc. I definitely starting to feel it. And I turned 30, so it's like I gotta reverse that stuff now. I was gonna ask you, what makes a good life, but it appears that you kind of are giving that definition. So what makes Bryan Johnson happy? Like, what are the things that you do that make you enjoy life? So for other people, it's like having a drink with a friend. So you just described that. But for you, a lot of people I feel like think you don't have live a good life or have fun. But I
yeah,
disagree. I'm sure you live an amazing life, Bryan. So what's your good life? What do you do to enjoy life?
yeah. I mean, so first, my motivations. I genuinely care about being respected by those that exist in the 25th century. So fast forward a few hundred years from now, and they're looking back at the early 21st century, and like all of our drama just like is washed away. Like we look back again at the third century, we don't really care what exactly happened. We just think like these two major things happened in the entire century, even though there were a lot of people who lived. And so the 25th century is going to do the same thing. They'll kind of compress our century and they'll isolate a few things. I want them to respect me. I want them to say, you know what, like he saw that moment in
Yeah.
with such clarity that like they as a species. And so the first is like I don't care what anyone thinks about what a good life is right now. Like it's like to me, paying attention to whatever people think in your time and place is foolish because it's always it's always a relic of the past. And so that's what drives me is their respect. And so it's really I'm always spending time in the future trying to tune my own awareness and not be dragged down by people who want me to conform to whatever their ideas of existence are right now.
I love that. I absolutely love it. I really, really, really hope for people who listen to this that they take this into account. It's very important. Do you think you're afraid of death, or do you just want to live longer?
If I fear death, I'm not aware of it. Like if like I would imagine that I'm not gonna know that I'm dead. Yeah, so I just don't know. Like if I'm dead, I'm not gonna know it.
So
So
yeah, so
I'm
you
not.
can't be afraid of it if you
Yeah,
don't.
so I'm not gonna
Yeah.
feel bad about it. I'm not gonna regret it. I'm not gonna feel ashamed about it. I'm just gonna be dead. And so like no, I'm not scared of death because it's an on and off switch and I'm
Yeah.
off. And so I genuinely think that life is insanely precious. We are so fickle with life. Like the fact that I think in just the very near future, we will look back and see someone do something like drink alcohol that poisons their body. Just say like we can't even comprehend why somebody would be so foolish and disrespectful that they're a conscious being with a functioning conscious state. I think
Yeah.
that we're just very very primitive right now in how fickle we are with life and death, which makes sense. When death is inevitable, we're all kind of like, YOLO.
YOLO, like I'm gonna go doing the yeah, I get it. I see. Sometimes I am guilty of this at times where like I have such a heavy week, Bryan, and everything's just so much work. Like we have over 40 employees that are in our company, right?
Yeah,
Like we run one of
yeah,
the largest media publishers in crypto, so it's no small feat.
yeah.
And damn, like dude, I just want to go have a drink. on Saturday, you know, or, you know, I was born and raised in Paris. I like to have my French wine.
Yeah.
It's part of my DNA almost. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, how do you get rid of those vices? Do you have to replace them automatically by something else? Like you, it's your chase. You're doing this thing, but like the average person like me, like say to stop that, I don't need to go and have those drinks. What do you replace that with?
Yeah. Right. First, it's if you do an honest accounting of it, do having those drinks, does it make you a better person?
I don't know. It does sometimes, like it does, you know, remove a load of stress. So maybe it does.
Does it improve or lessen your sleep?
No, just for sure it doesn't. It does not improve it. It lessens. I mean, the ring will tell me
Okay.
after one drink. Yeah,
Exactly. Okay. All right.
yeah.
So you get worse sleep.
I've
Now,
been studying myself for a year now, so like I can tell like one glass of wine reduces your REM sleep, like your heart rate, like all that. Like I've seen it firsthand.
exactly. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So, all right. So you know that I was leading you to that one. Okay, cool. So you see that
Oh yeah,
one
I
drink,
have the
it
data
destroys
for
it.
it, Brian.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. So, and then the following morning, how do you feel? Are you grateful that you did it? Are you regretful? Like, what's your emotion in the morning?
One drink does nothing to me. Does a little to my sleep. I say the next morning, I don't feel bad about it. But multiple, like no, I feel like shit. Like I do ask myself, I wish I didn't do it.
Okay, so that's the first principle. Is I think most people would relate to this, that it is rare to engage in an activity that causes a lot of damage to your body
Mhm.
that you don't regret at some point. When you're young, when you're 16 years old and you get 18 years old, you get trashed, and it's like we're out with friends. You don't really feel it that much. Like you may be a little tired, but then you feel it a bit more when you're 30, a bit more than you're 40. But like, generally speaking, I think it's an illusion that these things create happiness. The reality is they create misery, and we've just created these really fancy
Mm.
stories that blind ourselves that it's actually misery creation. And so the weird thing is, so when someone like myself doesn't do, you know, disease causing activities, people are like, bro, you're really fucking weird,
So what's the
right?
disease? What are more disease causing activities like outside of drinking?
So if you just say the average life expectancy is 77, right? Let's
Mm-hmm.
just say that. Let's just say aging is linear, which is not. It
Yeah.
increases over.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say, so we're going to do like a overgeneralization. I said, okay, so if I die a little bit every day, so my life expectancy is 77.
Yeah.
I know there are some activities that are going to make me die more. So if I smoke a cigarette, I'm going to die more. If I drink alcohol, I'm going to die more. If I eat junk food, I'll die more. If I eat good food, I'll die less. If I exercise, I'll die less. And so what I've been trying to do is just simply be the most don't die person in history. Like
Yeah.
I've become the most measured person ever. And we're just simply trying to quantify where's my body dying, in what ways, how fast, and what are the inputs. And so I've just become an algorithm to say, I don't want to die. So therefore, how do you live life to not die?
So
Is
you're what, like 0.62 right now? I'm seeing on the is it
0.57.
0.57?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're at 0.57. Sorry, because I was on looking at the Rejuvenation Olympics
Yeah.
website earlier today before this, and I was looking, okay, 0.57. So you're nearly there. I mean, you're about to knock out the second spot. You got Daniel Lewis at 58. And you're going
Exactly. I'm glad you're into it. Yeah.
you're going for number one. I'm into it. You know, as a matter of fact, we actually have a prediction open on will Bryan Johnson lead the Rejuvenation Olympics ranking by mid 2025 on our prediction market. So
That's cool.
yeah. I'll send it to you after. So we launched this whole prediction market tied to our media companies. Anyways, we're not here to talk about what I'm doing, but I'm just saying we have a market open that's like, will Bryan Johnson lead by the end of by mid 2025? So I'm rooting for you. I'm putting my money on Bryan Johnson here.
Thanks, man. That's cool of you. Thanks.
Everything you do, because I follow you on Instagram, see your social media, watch Don't Die on Netflix. Like, it's a lot. Like, there's a lot of time that is spent behind doing everything that you do. Clearly, this is your everything almost, right? Like, this is what
Yeah.
you do as a living. Is it harder to be present with people around you, etc.? Like, what? How do you manage all this? I saw you have a very close relationship to your son, which is honestly beautiful. So, how do you balance everything?
Yeah. I guess on a first level, it's kind of hard for me to comment about myself to have enough self awareness that to capture it. I generally think that people around me, they know that I am maniacally locked in on this goal. Like I am just totally consumed. My objective is not work life balance. My objective
Fair.
is to change the course of intelligence in this part of the galaxy.
I love that.
Nothing gets in the way of that objective. And so the people around
Wow.
me, they know that's my objective. And so, at any given moment, if the second I have any opening to think anything on my own, that I'm not engaged in a task, my mind is engaged on this project. I'm just totally consumed by it. And so in that way, like people around me don't expect me to be quote unquote normal, or they don't expect me to to engage in small talk. Like if we're in a social event and people are doing small talk, like those around me in my circle will be like, yeah, he doesn't really do that. Like yeah. So they're very kind, they're very helpful to me. So I think I've got a great group around me.
Yeah, so you're surrounded with the right people and you're locked in. Like you said, Bryan
Yeah,
Johnson's locked in. So I think
yeah.
that's important. It's tough. Like the balance, sometimes you have to, some stuff has to give for other things to thrive. I feel like you're doing this for humanity. So it's like, you understand there's like I feel like, is that what it is? Like you feel like you have such a bigger role in the world that you're like really catering to that. So I have a question about your background. If I understand well, like you grew up a Mormon, right?
Hmm.
Is
Hmm.
that accurate? Do you think any of this had like any influence on how you think about health, your regimen, your commitment, or life and death itself? Like, does that pass have something to do with what you're doing now?
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate my upbringing. I was taught to focus on long-term goals at the expense of short-term pleasure. So I think I built these muscles. I mean, I am, I'm extraordinarily disciplined. I don't have cheat days. I don't have
I
problems,
was gonna ask you
like
that.
swinging back and forth. I am. And you know what? If I cheat, my data shows it. Like there was one time, even I was doing this liquid iodine. So the protocol was 125 mcgs per day. So one drop on my tongue. And I would do it and it would taste really good. And I'd be like, interesting. Is my body telling me to do 2 drops instead of one because it says it's good, I need more? And so I started
Mm.
doing 2 drops. And I didn't tell my team. I just like kind of forgot about it. So then my test results come back and they're like, why are these levels high? And I'm like, oh guys, okay, yeah, like I've been doing 2 drops instead of one. They're like, oh, that makes sense. And I'm like, okay. So it was like anything I do shows up in my data, and because we measure so many things, so I'm in constant surveillance. All my data is present; it's there all the time. So I can't be one thing in public and one thing in private because I'm just held accountable. All my data shows it.
I love that. This is super cool. So you don't cheat. Damn it. We're not gonna get him, folks. People ask, hey, does Bryan Johnson cheat? So you don't have it. There's no cheat day, no cheat meal, nothing. You don't believe in that?
So the thing is, this goes back to having the drink with friends. It just causes pain.
I like my fries. I like
I know.
once I I go to my favorite steakhouse in Montreal, Brian, and I don't always like, I live by 80/20 personally, like in
Yeah,
my fiance now it's
yeah,
more 80/20.
yeah,
So, but even that, for some people think like, oh my god, you're super healthy, it's like intense. I'm like, dude, it's not intense, it's just 80/20 rule,
yeah,
bro. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
really not that hard, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Just like, get a grip. But it's like, sometimes a little slice of pizza, forget the alcohol, Brian. But is the fries, I don't know, bread. So
I mean, I hear you. So, like, first of all, if that's you, do you? That's cool. Like, I'm not going to judge you, and it's fine. So that's great. I'd say like the disconnect here is that most people like what you do, right? Like, they understand like there's a balance of being healthy and like doing this thing.
Correct.
And when you're in that world, I understand what you're saying, that you can dip back in and get your fries, and it's like pleasurable. I did have fries like 3 years ago. My son was like, Dad,
I
what
love
would
that 3 years ago.
he's like, what would happen if you had fries? And I'm like, oh, I'd get sick. And he's like, I don't believe you. Like, I think that honestly, you just like make this stuff up. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So he ordered some fries and it came with chili and cheese and like
Oh, yeah, those make you sick.
so I had like, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, like I don't know, some number. And I was just sick. Like my stomach hurt. I couldn't sleep that night. The next day I was totally like just groggy. It was just misery. And so the idea of doing anything like that, it's so unappealing to me because I just feel so awful. I feel so good all the time. I just feel great. I don't
You're
want to I
just
don't
so
want to
used to
compromise.
feeling good. I
Yeah.
feel that. Last year I did 2 months no alcohol, like straight no alcohol.
Yes.
And I listen, I smoke a little weed sometimes, and so I cut that too. And I was like, fuck it, 2 months, like October, November, sober.
Yeah.
Like I traveled to Lisbon, Paris.
Yeah.
I did multiple travel because my business have to travel a lot. And I still didn't drink. I didn't cave.
Yeah.
Even in
Yeah.
France, I didn't have wine. It's
Yeah.
tough for me. And man, I felt so good.
Yeah. This is what I'm talking about, right? Like, so
I
you know what
felt
I'm talking about.
good.
Once you get there, and it's like you don't want to mess that up.
On a Sunday morning, waking up with no hangover and being able to go to brunch at my mom's or my in-laws and like chill and like and then go to gym on a Sunday morning at 9. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm in the gym on a Sunday morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have to say it's
Yeah.
very relatable. Like this stuff
Yeah.
feels amazing. Like maybe for some people listening, I may be a little more relatable than Bryan Johnson because you're more in like the intense way. I'm telling y'all, please actually try some of the stuff Bryan says because it feels amazing. And if you don't believe it, I know you have a whoop band, it seems. I got the Oura ring. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's data. Just get something and track your data yourself.
Yeah.
And you'll see it for
So
yourself.
so well said. I'm so happy you just said that. That is so relatable and so true.
It's just amazing. It was just an amazing feeling. But then again, then I fall into the thing. Oh, it's Saturday night. I'll do it, and then I feel bad, and I tell myself, well, you're stupid. It doesn't. That didn't feel good, didn't it? I really encourage people to just try it and don't just stay inside and not drinking. Like my friends try not to drink. It's like I'm not going out anymore because I'm going to be tempted. I'm like, nah. Put yourself in the situation where
Yeah. Yeah.
mentally speaking, how was the mental health journey for you? I want to get to some family stuff, but first, like, how's the mental health journey for you
Yeah.
going in this whole thing?
I mean, I was depressed AF, and now I'm not.
When?
For 10 years, I was.
Fuck.
Yeah, when I was building my company, I had three little babies. I wasn't sleeping very well. I was doing a startup full time. I had relationship challenges. I was trying to leave my religion. Like the world was just caving in, and I just had omnipresent depression, and I wanted to commit suicide all the time. So yeah, I mean, it's
That was your entrepreneur. That was entrepreneur Bryan Johnson, like the Venmo Bryan
yeah,
Johnson.
yeah. Which is like this when I talk to entrepreneurs now, like I will be very honest with them and say like there's a 90% chance right now you are depressed AF.
It's tough, man. It's
And I'm
tough.
kind of, and I always say like, here's my shoulder, and you can cry.
So
Like
what's the tips?
I, I feel you. Yeah,
What's the tips? Like, cause some entrepreneurs, like I'm an entrepreneur, like we been doing this for a long time, man. And now it's like 4 years of building within crypto, so it's even speeding. Like
yeah,
this crypto timeline's insane, right? The ups
yeah.
and downs are horrible, Brian. Like the highs are very high and the lows are very low.
I haven't spent a lot of time. I have some friends in crypto, but I'm not deep into crypto. I wonder if mental health is worse in crypto than in other areas of entrepreneurship generally.
I think it is, but I mean, it's weird for me to say because like the times where I was the most depressed was like when I wasn't in crypto, and since I'm in crypto, maybe it's because my money's up, so that does have a little bit of a impact on my mental health because I can afford things that will make me feel better, let's say, or I can take a break, etc. And but for me, maybe it was the best part was like finding someone that like probably like is the best cure to loneliness and all that stuff, especially when you're building. But I do think that our crypto timelines are very intense. It's like stuff doesn't last, doesn't stick. It's up, it's
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
The market is directly correlated to most people's, moods.
yeah.
So it's a little intense. What would be some advice you have for people in the crypto space that are nonstop at their screens, trying to trade, trying to catch the next 1000x? What are some things you would tell these people?
I mean, the basics. It's just the basics. It's
Yeah.
making sleep your number one life priority. Getting high quality sleep is more important than making money. The risk is if you get into the daily trade off where it's just today that I'm going to stay up late and do this thing, and then I'll prioritize sleep tomorrow. Rarely is that true, right? That is the exact same thought process that is repeated every day. I understand the want for money. I've been playing the game my whole life too. It's just shifting to believe that you can in fact prioritize sleep and still make money. A lot of people think that not sleeping is the best path to money, and it's exactly opposite. Sleeping is the best path to making money.
I've made my best trades on good sleep nights, so I agree.
Like the science is just there. When you don't sleep well, you are cognitively impaired. It's like you're doing life drunk. And so I'd say, yeah, you prioritize sleep. And once you prioritize sleep, you do. I have a video on what you do to get the best. So I logged the best sleep score in human history, 8 months of perfect sleep. So I think I've explained sleep better than anyone in the entire world,
Wow.
like how you actually peg high quality sleep. So check out my video doing that. And then two is your exercise. Like every day, get out in front, leave your computer screen, even if it's 10 minutes, be active, get blood flow going. And then once you master those two things, then move to diet. But you don't start with diet. Most people try to begin losing weight by changing diet. That's the worst, because you don't have, if you're not prioritizing sleep, you don't have willpower. So it's master sleep, then master exercise, and then try to tackle your diet. But diet's hard because you have all those nasty habits, right? Like you've got that stash in your house, you've got that bag of candy, you've got that junk food.
They're also poisoning us in North America, man. In
Yeah,
Europe, you eat
yeah,
good. You eat much better. I go to Asia, I go to Europe, I lose weight. I feel amazing in the morning. I can have all the bread I want. I don't really eat bread here in Canada. I see it on my body directly. Speaking of crypto, obviously you put that tweet out the other day saying, hey, maybe I won't get involved, maybe I won't. Obviously, a lot of people, I'm guessing from your past life, are super involved in crypto, right? From the tech, startup, entrepreneurship world, etc. When I go to the Don't Die website, there's an option to integrate like a Solana wallet. It seems like a Phantom wallet. So have you dabbled at all into the world of crypto and blockchain tech?
yeah. We built a Don't Die citizenship on Solana.
Yeah.
So you can become a Don't Die citizen. Our goal with Web3 is to build Don't Die into the world's next major ideology on the scale of capitalism or democracy or Christianity or Islam, like a global ideology with, you know, a billion plus citizens or members,
Mm-hmm.
and to do that by 2027. And so Web3 plays in the role of, like, we're like, if I were to pose this question, like, how could Don't Die become, you know, the 32nd largest nation state in the world by 2027? How do we have that kind of resource base, citizenship,
Yeah.
uh, global shared endeavors? So that's when I talk about tokenomics and Web3, I'm not talking about a meme coin. I'm talking
I
about
figured.
how to build a nation state on the par with the biggest in the world.
So nation state on chain. So Solana clearly for you, right? That's kind of tokenized. And where does the token part? Because you've been. I mean, damn, you're one of the guys that made Venmo, right? This is
Yeah,
huge. Where does this play in? What do you think? Like, where does it? How do you tokenize this? How do you see? Like, what are your future plans in that sense?
yeah. So we're trying to figure that out. We are working through the design requirements where Web3 has to perform some critical function that is not performed through traditional methodologies. So we're really putting a high requirement on how we implement it. But also, it really is I mean, the holy trinity is Web3, AI, and eternal life, right? Like, that's the new reality.
Mm-hmm.
And Web3 creates a sturdy scaffolding on trust and right, data composition. And right, so it has so many useful qualities
Mm-hmm.
in what it can actually do. And so that's how we're thinking about it. Is it's a system of logic and trust and register that allows us to scaffold our own intelligence towards the objective of not dying, and aligning AI, humans, and the planet with incentives that make sense.
I love that. What do you see in crypto that you saw early in Venmo?
So just like with my body, I've been trying to build an autonomous system. So an algorithm that takes better care of me than I can myself. And if you even take the most basic thing of, like, I need to do a transaction that requires trust.
Yeah.
You say old school, right? This is a very common frame in the world of Web3. You know, you have these KYC requirements, you have like human verification systems, etc. Whereas you can just build it out computationally. So any opportunity you have to eliminate an old school human practice with a more robust computational process is a step forward for the species.
I love that.
The question is, like, if you computationally drive at trust and at voting and at power and at pooling of resources and decision making, there's very few computational tools that allow that to happen in a way that transcends native human abilities. So it's trying to we humans need to evolve faster than we're natively capable to. So this is an accelerant for our own evolutionary purposes.
I love that. So this is what you feel about crypto. I think this is incredible. And I hope people really pay attention to this, especially like the bigger folks that listen to you, right? The other founders in tech, etc. So on this journey to mass adoption, what do you feel like crypto is?
Okay, if the premise is true that we are headed towards some kind of artificial superintelligence, let's just call it in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, like, you know, somewhere in that time frame, 10 years, to say, that's going to create conditions as a species that are unfathomable to us today. All assumptions we have about reality, about how governments interact with each other, how we interface with our government, what we care about, what we strive for, how assets are determined, what we're taxed on, how tax money is spent, how we manage security, I don't think it's fair to assume any of those things are still true in 5 to 10 years. It's probably evolved to some extent which we can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we try to imagine how could we functionally survive this transition so that we don't annihilate ourselves? Like we have our fingers on nukes and like, biowarfare weapons, and we're at each other's throats all the time, individually, in groups, in country, between countries, ethnicities. Like we're really a violent species.
We are.
How could you reasonably contemplate a situation where we declare peace as a species, that we no longer kill each other, we no longer kill ourselves, we no longer kill the planet, and we align AI with don't die? How could you approach that kind of contemplation? And Web3 is a helpful tool to structure those interactions. It's to keep us in check. It's to build new systems of power. It's a new way to resolve conflicts of interest, or not conflict, but to resolve conflict. So we just need to. Right now, we primarily resolve conflict through words, and like economic sanctions or like certain maneuvering in the market. We need more powerful tools to resolve our differences, new mathematical models. And so that's what I'm thinking is we really want to embrace. That's why Don't Die is the most robust full stack ideology ever created, because it commences at the layer of entropy. Entropy is the final boss of the universe. There's just nothing. That's it. And so then if you step up from entropy and you get into mathematics and computation in all its forms, you start dealing with base layers of reality and physics. And you walk up through human storytelling and memetics and biology. Don't Die combines all those things into a unified framework on how to understand existence.
This is great. We've come up on time, so I feel like I can't even follow up on that. This is like such a great ending. I didn't get everything, all the questions out, but I feel like we got a lot, and I know you gotta go probably. So, this is like a really good way to end it. I love your approach for blockchain technology and crypto. It's so refreshing because everybody just comes in and is like, "Yo, let me drop a coin." Like, well, let me start this thing, and it's associated to a coin, but you're actually trying to build something on chain and thus tokenizing the whole thing. So this is amazing. All right, well, look, Bryan, I think we're good here. I'm gonna let you go. I know you're a busy man. It was a pleasure and an honor to get to interview you, and I hope we get to do this again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.